I'm Ron Sorensen with the National Peanut Lab in Dawson, Georgia. I've been doing drip irrigation research now for almost 20 years. What I'm going to discuss today is how to install and design your own drip irrigation system. Some of the things that you need in order to install your drip irrigation system is the length of field, the row length, the row spacing, and the emitter flow rate. By using those three pieces of information, we can calculate the size of the field that you can use for the amount of flow that you have coming from your well, as well as how much tape you're going to have to buy. On the plot we're going to install irrigation today, the plot is 150 feet long and 140 feet wide. In that case, we're going to be using roughly 10 gallons per minute for this plot. By using that, we only need so much tape. Each roll of tape, the ones that we're using, has 9,000 feet on it. Therefore, if we have 3 rolls on our tape machine, then we can do just a little over 4 acres. The flow rate that we're using is 0.24 gallons per hour with an emitter spacing of 12 inches, and that will give us a flow rate of just over 0.4 gallons per hour per 100 foot of tape. In an acre of land, that will come out to be 29 gallons per minute per acre. Drip irrigation has been around for many years. We've actually been using this on row crops of cotton, corn, and peanuts, and have been using it quite effectively, both deep subsurface drip and shallow subsurface drip. The shallow subsurface drip can be installed in corners of fields or small non-irrigated fields in small areas, and be able to be installed, depending on the length of run from your well to the field, approximately anywhere between $250 and $300 per acre on installation costs, which is much cheaper than a pivot on a small acreage doing a windshield wiper effect. One good thing about shallow subsurface drip versus deep subsurface drip, one is cost and economics. Shallow subsurface drip is $250 to $350 an acre, where deep subsurface drip will cost you anywhere between $1,500 and $2,500 per acre, depending on appurtenances and ease of operation, such as electronic controls and that type of equipment. If you're all manual, then you're looking at a much inexpensive cost. The use of shallow subsurface drip over deep subsurface drip will allow you to water up a crop, especially on a heavier type soil. We're still doing research at this time on sandier soils to know that if it will work in a sandy soil. Drip tubing can be installed easily. We'll show you the machine that we use in order to install that. It can be easily built and manufactured on farm. There's no specialized equipment, and the ease of operation and irrigation is quite simple. This is our drip tube injector machine. It's designed and developed at the National Peanut Lab. It has different features. It's gone through different iterations to get to this point. Essentially what you need is a drip tube holder that'll hold the tape itself, a pipe of some kind that'll come down and actually inject the tubing into the ground, and then a way to cover it. What we've done with this is we've put on parallel linkage so that we can go up and over different sizes of topography. We also have a gauge wheel up in front, and then of course we have our covering discs here in the back. These are typically home built. It's very easy to build. Most of the parts can be taken off, put together, bought at a local retail store. Very little welding involved, so it can be easily manufactured at home. What this is for is essentially a brake, so that you lay this over the top so that when you come to the end of the roll, the tube, spool won't continue to spool out and you have drip tubing laying all over. This just essentially is just a brake. While installing drip tubing, we need to make sure that it is completely buried. We do find that if it is not buried, that rodents, biological damage of any kind, either rodents or insects, deer, anything that can chew on it, will come in and actually chew on the drip tubing. So having it buried will make the tape last a lot longer. Our research has shown that we can bury the drip tubing just slightly 2 inches below the ground surface, and it can last up to 8 years. With this drip tubing that we're using today, at 30 gallons per acre, if you have a small 4-inch well that produces roughly 60 gallons a minute, you can irrigate 2 acres in one day for 1 inch. By doing that, you could cover quite a few acres in just a few changes of the drip tubing and the design so that you can cover more acreage. Typically during the installation, it's best if you have one person driving a tractor and then one person at each end of the field, and possibly even one person riding the machine to make sure that the drip tubing is flowing properly as it comes off the rolls. By having that many people, in one day you can easily install 20 acres a day, and if you have everything ready with the blue lay flat hose and everything there, you could have water running in one day on that 20 acres. The maintenance of the drip tubing is really quite simple. It's just being able to repair if there is a biological damage, a hole of some kind, to be able to go and to repair it, to find them. And this is the way we repair our drip tubing. If this is our hole in between these two, we take a piece of blank tubing. It's about 20 mil. It's very inexpensive. You buy it and roll at your local distributor, and we just put it together, slide it in on one side, slide it in on the other side till they match or the tubing is tight. And we take a wire tie, and these are stainless steel so they won't rust in the soil, and we bend it together, and using a wire tie tool we just tighten those up similar to that with our little tool, and it shuts it off so that it repairs. These repairs can cost upwards of 67 cents. Mostly it's 2 cents for the tubing, for that length of tubing. It's been calculated out. About a penny a piece for each of the wire ties, and then the rest of the money is the time for someone to actually go find and repair the hole. At the end of the 8 years, or however long you're going to have the drip tubing in, tape removal is a problem. There are no machines actually designed right now that you can buy commercially in the East at this point that will remove tape economically. We're in the process of building those pieces of equipment right now that you could build on farm. There is a company who does make tape removal, however the cost is quite expensive. So tape removal can be one of your major expenses, or can be time consuming to remove if you have to do it by hand. This is a typical control center for our drip plots. We come up to where we have a valve to turn on the system. We come into a flow meter so that we can match what our flow should be versus what's actually going out. We can check. We have a filter in order to filter out any contaminants. There is a difference when using pond water versus groundwater. If you have pond water, you may have to use a bigger filter than something like this. It takes more filter, which will cost more money. So it'd be best if you can come out of a groundwater situation. A pressure regulator to make sure that the pressure is the same, or so we don't destroy the tape. A pressure gauge just to make sure that the pressure regulator is working. And we also have an injection point so we can inject nitrogen or other fertilizers into the system. After that, it splits off and goes out into the field. One thing about drip irrigation that can be quite helpful to a young farmer just starting out is the size of the system. If you have a small field that is very expensive to put in a pivot, you may want to look at drip. You can put in a drip irrigation system by yourself very inexpensively compared to a pivot. It will cost you roughly about $250 to $350 per acre, and the installation is quite simple. You don't have to have equipment or someone come in and install the system for you. By using drip irrigation, you can actually save water more than a pivot. Our research has shown that we can save approximately 25% water compared to pivot. By doing that, you not only save pumping costs on that 25%, but you also save the labor costs involved with that.